Hi, this is Josh Rubin from East West Sailing Performance. Today, I want to talk to you about tongue diagnosis. Now, we're not going to talk Chinese medicine tongue diagnosis because that's a learned practice skill that most Chinese medicine practitioners go to school for, but also practice in their clinic for a long time in order to pretty much get down. So it's not a this for that science. There's just too many patterns involved. So we're just going to go over some basic, I would say, Western/Eastern ways of looking at someone's tongue, and I'll give you some other bodily ways of looking at someone or yourself, and maybe figuring out what's going on. Maybe figuring out, maybe I need to go do a lab test, a blood test, a stool test, a urine test for this specific issue. Or maybe I need to supplement with a specific vitamin or mineral because I might have this deficiency. It's just giving you some insight on maybe where you need to look. If you're feeling some fatigue, if you feel just worn down, if you feel deficient. So the first thing is, if you look at your tongue, if you see cracks, see grooves in the tongue, okay? This is basically a deficiency of B12 and folic acid or zinc, okay? Now, these aren't etched in stone, so don't say, well, if I have, cracks or grooves in my tongue, that it's this. We need to look elsewhere. This is just a sign for you maybe to look elsewhere into some testing to see if you're B12, folic acid, or zinc deficient. You could do a zinc tally test. It's very simple. We do that at our clinic. If you see scarring, purplish, or magenta color in the tongue, this can be just a basic vitamin B deficiency. If you have scalloped edges, so if the edges of the tongue are scalloped, almost like the tongue is swollen, you got slight bite marks in it, that means you could have food allergies or zinc deficiencies. And in Chinese medicine, that actually means you have a qi deficiency in the spleen. That means you're not taking in enough good quality foods to feed your body. Okay, so it actually could be a deficiency in good food, but from a Western/Eastern, scalloped edges in the tongue, sides of the tongue, typically mean food allergies/intolerances or zinc deficiency. If you have a pink tongue, that could be a sign of anemia. There's many types of anemia, so the key is to get the right blood test to figure out what type of anemia you have. If you have a burning sensation in the mouth, off and on, this is quite common in people who have a B6 deficiency, and you see this a lot in people who smoke. If you have a metallic taste in your mouth or a metallic taste in your tongue, well, this is a sign of maybe some type of heavy metal poisoning in the body. You might need to do some testing to see what, and do some further detoxification. If there's cracks in the corners of the mouth, or cracks in the lips, dry lips, people get really dry lips and they get cracks. This is actually commonly called atrophic glossitis, and this is typically a B12 deficiency, a folic acid deficiency, and a zinc deficiency. More commonly a B12 deficiency. And the key is, if you watch our YouTube clips or read some of our blogs, and I keep saying B12, the key is to figure out why you have a B12 deficiency. It could be H.Pylori. It could be because of lack of protein. It could be because of a bile acid deficiency. So the key is to figure out why you have a B12 deficiency. If your tongue is very shiny and glossy, this is once again a sign of a B12 deficiency. Okay. If the tongue is white and coated and there's some debris on it, it really depends on what part of the tongue it's on. For instance, in Chinese medicine, the tip of the tongue is the heart, the middle is the spleen and the stomach, the sides is the liver and the gallbladder. So if you have whiteness, let's say in the sides, that could be a liver gallbladder issue. If there's whiteness in the middle, that could be a spleen stomach issue. A lot of times, if the tip of the tongue is red, that means you have heat in the heart. Something going on in the heart in a Chinese medicine sense. If the tongue is enlarged, if it's swollen, if it's beefy, this is typically a cortisol problem or an adrenal gland issue. You might want to do some further testing, saliva testing, to see what's going on with your adrenal glands if the tongue is enlarged. There's some other things in the body. I think I've talked about these before in our YouTube clips. If you see tags, skin tags on people's bodies, and they frequently get skin tags, that's usually a sign of blood sugar handling problems, increased insulin levels in the body from improper nutrition. The outer 1/3 of the eyebrow, if that's essentially missing or faded or disappearing, that's usually a thyroid problem, more likely a hypothyroid issue. Same thing with people's reflexes, meaning if they're getting their Achilles reflex tested or their knee-jerk reflex or other reflexes, if they're slow, that's typically a sign of a thyroid dysfunction, more typically a hypothyroid dysfunction. So hopefully you've learned something basic from this YouTube clip. It's just something to look at to see if you have possibly some deficiency. If you have a deficiency, if you have any of these, don't just jump on and say, well, I got to take B12, right? I have cracks in my mouth here and in my lips all the time, and that's a sign of a B12 deficiency. The key is through further testing, through saliva testing, through stool testing, blood testing, urine testing, through working with someone, you can figure out why you have a B12 deficiency. But the goal is to recognize this and then do the proper testing to actually find out what's going on so you can get the right protocol to treat it. So hopefully you've learned something from a YouTube clip. Stay tuned for some more clips. At the end of this clip, what I want you to do is go to the following link, www.10news, the number 10news.com/A-list. Go to that link, vote for us. We've been voted for best personal trainers in San Diego. I want you to go to this link, scroll down to health and fitness, click on personal trainers, find East West Healing and Performance, and vote for us now. We need your help. Voting ends September 4th, and we really want to win and get best personal trainers, or I guess best personal trainer studio in San Diego. So thank you for your vote, and stay tuned for some more great YouTube clips.